My name is Joe. 20 years ago, my wife and I moved to Lake County with our 4 young children and settled down. In that time, we've worked, worshiped, played, and raised our family. Today, I've met the people and discovered the businesses and organizations that make up a vibrant, dynamic community. Join us as we share with you what makes South Lake great. I'm Joe, and Joe knows South Lake.
Welcome, and happy Monday. That's right. It is Monday, the day after Easter, day after Resurrection Sunday. We're actually going to talk about that in the Cup of Joe later on. Look, I just want to say welcome, and I know that a lot of you are sheltered in place. A lot of you are just trying to make it happen here with what's going on. And as always, we will start our day with the gratitude check. And I got to say, there was a show on several years ago, I think it was in the 90s, called Babylon 5. I'm a science fiction freak. I loved it. One of my favorite characters was the Centauri, that's a race of space people, was the Centauri ambassador, who became the leader of his entire world, the emperor. And Jay, will you bring that picture up? Let me know when it's up. Okay, look, I'm feeling like this guy. You can see I have a natural half forehead, and if I let this go, I will look like him. I actually feel like I'm looking like him when I get out of bed. It's too high. The whole point to that is I am grateful for Wendy Packy, who is my hairstylist at Bombshell Salon. I can't wait to get back to her. I considered actually taking my beard trimmer, which I bought for this nasty thing, to actually do my own hair. And I said, no, I'm going to have to suck it up. So I am grateful for Wendy. And if you are out there and you are a hairstylist, I know you probably don't get a whole lot of encouragement. But man, there are a lot of us who are missing you, and I am missing you. I can't wait to sit in your lovely hands and have you do your magic so I don't feel so scruffy and edgy. Thank you, Wendy. And look, if you have a hairstylist, even if you can't go see him, give him a call. Touch of life. There ain't nothing wrong with reaching out to people and letting them know who you are and where you are. Okay, deal of the day. Obviously, it was Easter yesterday. Miss Pat and I were able to have 2 of our youngest children, our 2 youngest children, Jennifer and William, and they're in their mid to late 20s. And, so instead of doing the hassle, we found a deal from Cracker Barrel. Would have done it on Friday, but we didn't do a live show on Friday, so grateful for the reruns, because we can take a day where we don't do something. So the deal of the day, this was an Easter meal, and the reason it's the deal of the day is, I'm always cautious when I do something like that. I have reached out to a couple of things, a couple of local businesses that had some deal to feed your whole family, and, turns out the portions weren't all that good. And I'm not talking about Roadhouse. Texas Roadhouse was amazing. I loved their package deals. But Cracker Barrel really, really shocked me. My wife and I, because there were 4 of us, and my kids, they're large like me, and we're all hearty eaters. And so we celebrated our Easter on Saturday. I wanted to make sure there was more than enough. And so we got the meal for 10 people. And it was $79. But when I added up everything that came, it would have cost me $55 in groceries just to get the basics. Okay, and it all came in the pans, ready to cook, ready to warm, came with a 10-pound ham. And here's the thing. We ate Easter dinner, the 4 of us. That came with a couple of pies as well, so we had dessert. We had Easter dinner, the 4 of us. We ate at noon and picked off that all day long while we watched movies. We sent meals home, not just a little bit of leftovers, but meals enough for each child to have 3 or 4 dinners. Then Miss Pat and I picked at that all day. Yes, we had some of it for breakfast in omelets. I'll explain that some other day. But then we had it for lunch and dinner. We were picking. It was absolutely amazing. There's still some left. I'm going to get other meals out of it. I thought it was a great deal. So here's the best part. It's available all the time, not just for Easter. So reach out to... I'm sure Jay brought it up. I think we found it on their Facebook page, not their website. But they do these kind of things all the time. So give them a call, ask what they have available. It's a deal of the day, and we didn't have to cook it. That was the best part. All right. We are going to go to commercial break. When we get back, our guest, Joseph Goldovitz, is the spiritual leader of Congregation Sinai, and he's going to tell us about Passover and a little bit about the Jewish faith that I didn't realize. I thought I was very well educated. So we'll see you in just a minute. Don't go away.
Joe Knows South Lake would like to thank the following sponsors.
50 West, pre-leasing now in Claremont. A first-of-its-kind commercial development in the Southeast. Contact us today to reserve your spot in this historic development. 50 West, unique, quality, Class A. For more information on leasing, contact Ashley Punn at 407-403-4165. Karen Arlano at 407-948-0767. Or visit lease at 50west.com.
Are you tired of having drugs or alcohol ruin your life? Do you need to get off pain pills but still maintain pain relief? My office in Tavares has programs to help you. While not covered by insurance, program fees are affordable. My name is Alan Zupkin. I'm board certified and have helped thousands of patients achieve these goals. Please call me for further information.
Joe Knows South Lake would like to thank the following sponsors.
Welcome back. I am joined by Joseph Goldovitz, who is the co-spiritual leader with his beautiful wife, Lynn, at Congregation Sinai, which is listed online as the local Claremont Synagogue. Obviously, he's going to talk to us a little bit about the Jewish faith and about Passover. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Once again, the show has allowed me to reach out and start a relationship with somebody that I did not previously know, and also has allowed me to find out some amazing things. Not only, we're going to talk about a lot of this today, we're not only going to find out about his faith, but a lot of what we talked about has informed me in my faith. So I really appreciate that. Welcome, 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 Joseph.
Well, thank you very much. A slight correction. We moved a little bit better than a year ago from Claremont to Groveland, and we are now at 1200 West Broad Street in Groveland, Florida, sunny Central Florida, as it were. Yes.
And that's actually an important distinction, to know that where the place is if you want to take part. So, thanks a lot. All right, Joseph, let me ask you this. Let's just jump in and get started. Tell us a little bit about Congregation Sinai. I was fascinated with some of that conversation we had earlier. Can you tell us a little bit about the congregation?
Yes, I can. My recollection about 25 or 30 years ago driving up Highway 27 in the Claremont area is that for the most part, orange groves were everywhere and not housing developments. And of course, things have changed greatly in the last 25 or 30 years. And as developments were constructed, people moved in. Also, a number of Jewish families, couples moved in. And at length, they felt that they had enough Jewish people in the area to form their own synagogue. So I want to say it was probably about 16 or 17 years ago that Congregation Sinai came into existence. And the congregation met for a couple of years in what used to be the City Hall in Claremont. I think it was called the Jenkins Building at that time. And then they found a more permanent residence on Highway 27 in Claremont. But we needed to move a little bit better than a year ago, and we found ourselves over in Groveland. And so I guess the next question is, what type of congregation or Jewish congregation do we have? And so in an effort to sort that out, there are 3 or 4 major groupings in the Jewish religious world. And the Orthodox grouping, which has many subsets, would be the most observant. And you'll identify many of the men as having beards, wearing head coverings all of the time. And sometimes they even have different clothing. The conservative world is also rather observant, but with a little bit of relaxed observance from the Orthodox community. And the Reform Jewish world is perhaps even yet a little bit less observant in a variety of ways, but it's also inclusive, the other side of the coin, because we affirm the female of the species, as it were. Women are included in every facet of our congregational life, which isn't necessarily the same in the Orthodox. There's also a smaller grouping, Reconstructionist Judaism, but the question, where does Congregation Sinai fit? Many of our original members grew up either conservative or somewhat in the Orthodox world. So as the congregation was formed, they probably leaned a little bit more toward the conservative practice. But as we moved forward in time, probably a lot of practice that you'll find in the Reform Jewish world has made its way into our congregational practice. So I'd say we're somewhere between Reform and conservative in our practice as a congregation.
You know, I found this concept to be completely fascinating because I had always, and I've always considered myself as fairly well educated, you know, about the difference between Christians and Jews. I mean, at least for the basics. I found this fascinating because it had never occurred to me that you might have, I mean, I knew about Orthodox Jews because I lived in New York for a little while, you know, and so you're used to seeing people who are obviously set apart, right? That they're engaging in a different lifestyle. But I found this to be fascinating because it never occurred to me that it wasn't Orthodox and everybody else. That you have within the practice of your faith, just like Christianity, you know, several traditions. Okay, tell us how. Can you give us an idea of some of the larger differences between, let's say, Orthodox, which I know has a lot. I mean, they celebrate a lot and observe a lot of holy days and a lot of the older Talmudic traditions, and what you would see where you guys are between conservative and Reform.
Well, if we would use something as simple as the Sabbath, and we would use the word Shabbat. So the Sabbath in the Torah, God outlines it and says it should be a day of rest. You cease from work, as it were, and so you honor the day more than anything else by resting. And the question is, what is work? What is considered to be work? And with what emphasis we adhere to that. So the very strict observance of much of the Orthodox world would include not only not going to work, but for instance, they'll prepare food to be eaten on the Sabbath before the Sabbath actually begins, so that they're not cooking during the hours of the Sabbath. They will, for instance, not drive an automobile because they feel that driving an automobile is somehow related to work by the creation of fire, internal combustion, that sort of thing. The conservative world leans in that direction, but allows for the thought that in order to come to the synagogue for services, you might live a bit further away, and there would be a need for you to drive. So they find that to be permissible, whereas many rabbis of conservative synagogues will still live close enough to the synagogue to walk there on Shabbat. In the Reform world, it isn't that they've tossed the rules out, they've simply modernized it and said, we still want to observe the Sabbath, we still want to honor the day, and we do that with services, with a special festive meal, etc. But we're not as concerned about the details, like, for instance, driving or turning on lights or cooking a meal. But we absolutely feel that the day is a special day, that we should set aside 1 in each 7 to honor God and His Word.
You know, and that's a great answer. You know, I think it totally misses some people that there are people in our world that actually, you know, that when you talk about the Orthodox, I'm sure that they are much more strict about the observance of those traditions and laws that have come up through their faith. And as much as I think you and I could talk about this and engage the viewers for hours, I want to switch over to Passover, because the Christian faith just finished Easter, and you know, it's a time of great. This time of year in both the Jewish and the Christian faith is just very important spiritually. Can you tell us a little bit about what Passover is?
Certainly, I can. I want to touch one thing just to conclude our previous thought. Years ago, my wife and I saw a movie. I think the name of the movie was Chariots of Fire. And it was about a young Christian minister who was going to run in the Olympics, but he refused to do so on what he felt was the Sabbath. So I would say that certainly not only in the Jewish faith, but in the Christian faith, there are people that still hold that day to be sacred and feel that it should be set apart for certain things. So enough of that. Passover, the Hebrew word is Pesach, all right? And literally, it means to hop over or pass over. And Exodus, the book of Exodus, chapter 12, gives us a significant outline. The Israelites were servants under duress in Egypt, and God sent Moses, who was at least initially less than willing to hold that leadership position, but Moses ultimately complied, and through Moses' participation and his brother Aaron, God sent 9 plagues upon Egypt in an effort to convince the Pharaoh to let the Israelites go. And the phrase, "let my people go," is what most people remember. The next part of that phrase is the reason for letting the people go, that they may serve God. So, bearing that in mind, God then said, I will send a 10th and most awful plague upon Egypt, and the firstborn male of each Egyptian family will die. The firstborn of the Israelites will not, but part of the Passover observance is that on the 14th day of the first month, they were supposed to take a lamb, slaughter it as it became toward twilight, put some of the blood on the doorposts and the lintel, as it were. And the question comes up theologically, would God not know which homes are the Israelites? And the answer is, of course, but we're required to participate in the processes of salvation, of God interacting with Israel. The other thing that we're required to do on Passover is take all of the leaven out of our homes, which is anything that rises, bread, cupcakes, cookies, And there's leaven in a variety of things. We could go into an exhaustive list, which includes crackers, cereal, etc., etc. And we're supposed to eat matzah, and the lamb was supposed to be eaten with bitter herbs. So until the destruction of the temple by the Romans, approximately 2,000 years ago, it was the practice of the Jewish people each year to bring a lamb to be slaughtered that they would consume for Passover. We no longer do that, but there are minimally three things that we have to do to observe Passover. One is that we have to get the leaven out of our homes. Two, we're supposed to eat some matzah. And three, very, very important, we're supposed to tell the story as if God took me personally out of Egypt. So that's the current observance. Those three things need to occur. And this brings us to the Seder, or the Passover meal that Jewish people have. In Israel, they'll do it the first night of Passover, and Passover is 7 days. Outside of Israel, it's 8 days, so it'll be the first 2 nights that we'll have a Seder. And something that a lot of people don't focus on, the most widely observed holiday in all of the Jewish year and practice will be Passover. More Jewish people are at a Passover Seder on the first 2 nights than participate in any other Jewish holiday during the year.
That's fascinating. And I want to delve a little deeper into the days of Passover and the difference in them and how you perform it. But we need to go to commercial break. We're going to discuss that when we get back. Look, do not go anywhere. This subject just gets more and more interesting. And it's really, really important, whether you are Jewish or you're not Jewish, to understand that there are people who celebrate a little differently. And Joseph is going to tell us a little bit about a perspective on Easter that had completely missed me, and he was completely right. So when we get back, we'll get into that. We'll see you in a minute.
Joe Knows South Lake would like to thank the following sponsors.
Life is better when you're smiling. At Modern Orthodontics, Dr. Alan Wong has changed thousands of lives, helping patients achieve the modern smile with braces and clear aligners. Utilizing digital scanning technology, Modern Orthodontics creates in-office 3D models for clearly modern aligners. Modern Orthodontics is conveniently located in Claremont, Apopka, and Bushnell. Call or text us to schedule your free exam and create your modern smile today.
Burgerum, located in the Epic Theater shopping plaza on Highway 27, is the premier destination for gourmet burgers. Using only the freshest ingredients, Burgerum offers a variety of burgers, salads, wings, and a whole lot more. Beef, chicken, lamb, fish, and even veggie. Burgerum has something for everyone, no matter your dietary preference. Burgerum, millions of possibilities, endless combinations.
My name is Michael Singh, Agency Principal of Singh Insurance and Financial Services. We offer auto insurance, home insurance, and life insurance. Our office number is 352-432-1646, and you can also check us out on our website at www.singhinsurancegroup.com.
Joe Knows South Lake would like to thank the following sponsors.
And welcome back. Look, we are joined by Joseph Goldovitz. And Joseph, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. I'm notorious for butchering names, so please correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, there's a Z on the end. It's Goldovitz, but it was
Goldovitz. And he and his wife Lynn are the co-leaders of the co-spiritual leaders of Congregation Sinai, the local Jewish community, a local Jewish community. We are talking about Passover, and I had asked Joseph earlier when I asked him about Passover, to explain to us, why 8 days and what you celebrate on the 8 days. And I said to him, like we as Christians, we celebrate Easter and it's one day. And Joseph, explain that to me again, because I thought that was quite a telling truth that had completely missed me.
Well, first of all, the celebration of Passover is outlined both in Exodus chapter 12 and Leviticus chapter 23, at least for openers. And it's essentially a 7-day holiday. The first evening, because the Jewish day begins at sunset. So the first evening, you're going to have that Passover meal, which will include the lamb, the matzah, the telling of the story, and so on. And then the following day, which is still the first day, there would be a service, a holy convocation. And then on the seventh day, again, there would be another holy convocation, a service. And a service is, traditionally Jewish congregations have services every day. They'll be a little bit more ornate on Shabbat, and similarly, they'll be more ornate on these holidays like Passover. So Passover is an 8-day, 7-day celebration, 8 days outside of Israel. And the reason it's 8 days outside of Israel is before the calendar was fixed, the way you'd know when a holiday should begin is people would go outside in Jerusalem and look at the moon. And that would indicate what the day of the month would be, because the Jewish calendar is a lunar calendar. So if you're outside of Israel, to make sure that you didn't miss a day, they added a second day to many holidays. Moving forward from that, Passover begins a season, and this is outlined in Leviticus chapter 23, when on the second day of Passover, we begin to do something we're counting toward Shavuot, the festival of weeks. And originally it was probably a harvest festival, but the rabbis connected it to the receiving of the Ten Commandments and the Torah at Mount Sinai. Meaning we start on Passover, and then we count off 49 days, 7 weeks, and on the 50th day, there's a celebration. Later on, the Greek-speaking people refer to this, of course, as Pentecost. So talking about Easter, my understanding of Easter is that it's not just a one-day celebration, but it actually begins some weeks before with Lent. And from Lent, you count off however many days, and then as you approach Easter, you have the week before Palm Sunday. Then you have something called Maundy Thursday, then Good Friday. And again, I think my Christian theological terminology is failing me, but Saturday is a holy day. And then, of course, you have Easter. And then from Easter, you're still looking forward to Pentecost, which I'm thinking would be 50 days beyond Easter.
Exactly.
Okay, so that to me indicates that Easter is really not a one-day holiday.
And that's why I appreciated that perspective, because, it tends to be very easy. We build so much significance in the Christian faith around the one day that we tend to forget, depending on how people that are Catholic are more observant of those days than other Christians, but they're still there, and they still are celebrated, but in such a minor way that it's easy to forget that that's part of the entire process. It's part of the entire season. And in reality, for Christians, Pentecost really is the wrap-up of the season. It's when the Comforter came. I wanted to ask you, we've talked about the form and the function, the tradition. Why is Passover important?
Well, Passover, here's a very easy answer. When you look at chapter 12 of Exodus, God says, observe this festival of Passover forever. The word forever is a kind of powerful word. It wouldn't mean until there would be a change of some sort, or until, instead of one branch of Judaism being the Orthodox, that you have multiple branches. Forever means forever. Therefore, anybody who is Jewish that's at all religiously involved or tuned in is going to observe the Passover holiday. Beyond that, the ideology of Passover is all about freedom, but not just physical freedom. It's about spiritual freedom. We have many instances where individuals have fought and died, if you will, for the sake of religious freedom. Even, the people that originally, the Europeans that settled the United States of America, the colonies back then, many of them came here in search of more religious freedom, less restriction. Thank God they didn't have to fight and die for that, but many of them did lose their lives. It was harsh living conditions. I guess the Pilgrims that settled Plymouth, a number of them didn't survive that first year, but they were willing to undergo those hardships for religious freedom. So Passover is, yes, about the freedom of the Israelites from bondage, but for what purpose? To serve God. And so I think that we keep in mind this is the reason for that holiday, that we are freed, but for a specific purpose, not just to be free.
I love that concept. It's important enough to know that it's just because God said so, but God said so for a reason. That he wanted people to remember that there was a cause to what they have. I really like that analogy. Within that, the Passover system, do you struggle as a leader sometimes getting people to come on board or to discover the importance? How is it in your faith? And again, I speak to a lot of Christian leaders, local faith leaders, and sometimes it's like pulling teeth to get people to put aside their busy lives. And of course, we're in a time now where those busy lives have been interrupted. Are you seeing more people come to celebrate Passover, or are you fielding more questions because people are home more? Give us a take on how this season is really affecting your observance this year.
Well, this year in particular, obviously, Passover and Easter are falling right in the middle of that time when government and health authorities are saying to all of us that we need to not congregate, that we need to stay at home, social distancing, and so on. So I want to say that those internet devices that allow us to have groups of people participate online, that they have probably exploded in their usage by synagogues, churches, and whatever religious organizations. So, yes, we've noticed, for instance, even on just our Shabbat services, our Sabbath services, we would normally, at our small synagogue, perhaps see about 50 people that would come out to the service. We're seeing minimally 70 and more computers that are signing on to these services. And in each of those, not every single one, but many of those, there'll be a couple at home or a family of 3 or 4 people. So we're seeing literally double the amount of attendance. I think that at times that can be trying. I'll draw our attention to 9/11, say 20 or so years ago. Following that, synagogues and churches had more attendance because at times that are trying, a lot of people reach out spiritually. So at this time, unfortunately, we can't go to synagogue and church physically. However, we can join our congregations online. And I would understand that probably pastors are experiencing more participation that way. A second little thought, not to this season, but just in general. Obviously, there are specific times during the year, whether it will be Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Passover, those are times when there's a greater attendance. And I would think that in the church world, that Christmas and Easter, the churches would enjoy a more significant attendance than each Sunday. So that's our experience as well. On those holidays, the attendance is greater than it is week to week for Sabbath services.
You know, it's really funny that because of this time, and I know most of the faith leaders I'm talking to, the hope is that this has been, for many people, a wake-up call. I know that I had almost on a weekly basis, I talked to an awful lot of people, and I had almost a weekly conversation with people where people feel that had felt, at least before all of this, that faith was becoming irrelevant in our modern society. And I have been fascinated to find that those very same people are reaching out to their faith. Suddenly we realize of all the things that we can do without, one of them is not our faith. And even those people who would not be considered churchgoers are suddenly reaching out. Maybe they grew up in church, or they had an aunt or an uncle or a friend that's heavily involved. Finding your faith in times like this is really the only way that I feel that you can actually find peace and make sense of all of these things you can't control.
Well, obviously, there are those times in life that present themselves when we feel much less in control, whether it's during a personal illness in the family or whether we have a collective societal issue as we're dealing with right now. It's not a surprise to any of us, even if you're not a priest or a pastor or a rabbi or whatever. It's not a surprise that more people participate in faith connections, if you will, during times that are difficult. The question is, when you get beyond those times, and I think that we all believe that this is a finite period of time. We don't know how the country will all get back to work and everything will resume, but we do know that that will at some point occur. So then when it does occur, will everybody that felt that they needed to reach out, will they continue to be involved? And our experience in the past is somewhat, but not everybody. But instead of me saying, but that's okay, let me simply say that our doors are always open. The doors of our synagogues, I'm assuming the doors of our churches, and my telephone is always available if anybody has a need. So whether it's a time of trouble or it's just normal times, we're open so that anybody that wants to involve themselves with us at Congregation Sinai is welcome. And that's not only for Jewish people. There are people that are not Jewish that come and enjoy our services and just like to spend time with us, and they're welcome.
And I appreciate you saying that because, there comes a time in every crisis like this that we're starting to see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. There are questions about whether it's going to get as bad as they projected, and it seems to be the general idea, no matter how it happens, eventually, business is going to be opened up. We're going to have, our economy is going to be put back on a growth track. We will have eventually the tests we need and vaccines and treatments. And, what's important to start to think is okay, so we've dealt with the initial shock, we've reached out, what's next? And that's what I'd like to ask for you guys. What's next for Congregation Sinai? Where do you go from here?
Well, again, I think that we're looking to, we would love to just say these words. We're back to normal, whatever normal would be. I found that as I go through life, I'm 66 years old, and I found that as I go through life, this is no surprise to people who are my age, that often we're presented with something in life And at the conclusion of that particular issue, we find a new normal as opposed to just going back to whatever the normal was before. And I suspect that in some ways that will be the case moving forward. I'm not going to get into the details of whether we'll ever shake hands again. That's for other people to decide. But I think that I don't think that this event that we're in worldwide is cataclysmic in the sense that I don't think that this is Armageddon. I don't think that this is the end of the world as we know it. I think we do come through on the other side, and perhaps we'll be smarter, stronger. And I would hope that people that reached out, whether it's the synagogue or churches or other religious institutions, I would hope that they would give a little bit of thought to maybe as things return to normal, that they would continue to have their involvement with those religious institutions. Beyond that, we had a congregational Seder or Passover meal scheduled, which of course we had to cancel because we can't congregate together. I think there were 125 or 130 people that were coming to our Passover dinner. So what we're looking toward is perhaps in June, but we won't know until we get to the middle of May if we can set a firm date, to have an Exodus celebration banquet, the Exodus from the coronavirus bondage, as it were. And I would like anybody who's listening to this program to know that everybody is invited to participate in that. It will be somewhere in the Claremont area, one of the ballrooms that's for hire. And we will have a dinner, we will have entertainment. CongregationSinai.org can be found online. And so if you stay tuned to our website, then you'll get information on that as it becomes scheduled. You're invited, Joe.
Well, and I appreciate that, and I know that the cost will be reasonable. You know, you have costs associated with that, so it will be a banquet. You know, and people should be ready to not just get. It's not a free meal, but it is a celebration. I will probably be attending when you give me the announcement. I'm sure my lovely wife could use an excuse to go out after all of this. You know. This has been a great interview. I really, really appreciate you, and I want to say thank you for joining us. I want to tell the viewers, look, if you ever had any questions about your faith, about other faiths, I have found that Joseph and other leaders have been very, very open to me calling up and just asking some questions. Don't walk around this world ignorant and blind. There is no need for it. Joseph has been very open to speak with me. As a matter of fact, our quick conversation the other day, I believe, lasted a couple of hours or fairly close. We probably wouldn't have stopped if I didn't have something else I had to go do at the time. So I just want to say thank you, Joseph. You've been a great guest. Do you have any final thoughts or last words?
I will offer this as a final thought, that we thank God for bringing us to this season, for keeping us alive, for sustaining us. This is a prayer that's uttered in Hebrew at every Jewish holiday, and of course other events like circumcisions and bar and bat mitzvahs and whatnot. So may God protect us as we move forward and help us to find our way through this trying time and help us to get life back to normal. And we do mourn for all of those people that have lost anyone. Other than that, we say onward and upward. We pray for our country, our president. May we be successful in all things.
I really, really appreciate those thoughts and words. Look, folks, we're going to say goodbye to Joseph, and once again, I want to say thank you for being a guest. He has been great. We're going to go to commercial break, and we get back. Some final thoughts from Joe and a cup of Joe. We'll see you in a minute.
Joe Knows South Lake would like to thank the following sponsors.
50 West now pre-leasing 28,900 square feet of commercial, professional office space in Claremont. Conveniently located on Highway 50, less than 2 miles from the Turnpike. A first of its kind in the Southeast, this pristine building creates the perfect blend of nature and modern design. If you seek a high-level image that matches your business, reserve your space today. 50 West, unique, quality, Class A. For more information on leasing, contact Ashley Punn at 407-403-4165, Karen Arlano at 407-948-0767, or visit lease@50west.com.
Check out these gourmet deals from Bergeron Claremont, like our daily deals. Milkshake specials. Kids eat free. That's right, kids 10 and under eat free every Monday with purchase of an adult combo. Choose from delicious protein combos like beef, chicken, lamb, fish, veggie, and even the Impossible Burger. Milkshakes are buy one get one free Monday through Friday from 2 to 5 p.m. Stop into Bergeron Claremont today to take advantage of our daily deals, like the Monday Crispy Chicken Combo, the Tuesday Falafel Combo, the Wednesday Angus Beef Combo, and the Thursday Spanish Beef Combo. Gourmet deals from Bergeron Claremont, located just off Highway 27 and the Epic Theater Shopping Plaza. Bergeron, millions of possibilities, endless combinations.
Are you tired of having drugs or alcohol ruin your life? Do you need to get off pain pills, but still maintain pain relief? My office in Tavares has programs to help you. While not covered by insurance, program fees are affordable. My name is Alan Zupkin. I'm board certified and have helped thousands of patients achieve these goals. Please call me for further information.
Joe Knows South Lake would like to thank the following sponsors.
And welcome back. Look, Joseph was a fascinating guest. I really appreciate him coming on and talking. It took me a little while to get them. And actually, there have been several faith leaders in the community who have not wanted to share, who have not wanted to come on. And I appreciate they're a little skittish. Maybe they just don't understand what we're trying to do. But I really appreciate it when people agree to come on and share their faith, share their organizations, share what they're passionate about. Look, Passover is just as important as Easter and any other faith that it has a religious observance. Kindness and tolerance are one of the things that we can, as Christians, put forth. I know that I can be very intolerant and critical, but I don't like to be. And so this is why I do this. I really want to find out everything that's going on in the community. And when I know what's going on in the community, I can be of greater service to people. If I'm helping you find a house and you need to know where the synagogue is, now I know. If I'm helping you sell your house and you want to move closer to a certain, to a certain church, well, I need to know where that church is. If you come into the area, you have me helping your mother-in-law move into the area, I can help you find the right doctors. It's important to reach out and know your community. And that's my final thoughts. I really appreciate Joseph once again. He was a great guest. All right, Cup of Joe. I don't have my Cup of Joe cup, but I will have. Cup of Joe. Look, today is the day after Easter. And do you know, Easter celebrates the resurrection. But you know, there was a day after Easter 2,000 years ago. And there were a lot of people who didn't realize Jesus had come back. And even the ones that did realize Jesus had come back, they may have been encouraged, their faith was built. But you know, they still had to face the next day. They still had to face the idea that the Romans might arrest them. You know, even Passover, we just talked about Passover. Even when the Passover happened, there was still work. The next day was coming. Today is the next day. And my question to you here on the day after is, and Joseph touched on this, I hear everybody saying we need to go back to normal. I don't want to go back to normal. Because whatever caused this, whatever allowed it to get as bad as it is, or, I've heard some conspiracy theories that make sense, right? I mean, are the numbers fluffed? Are they boosted? Some people have talked about that all the deaths they're attributing to COVID aren't necessarily attributed to COVID. So if those numbers are less, what are they trying to gain? My point is, today is the next day. I don't want to go back to normal. I want to go back to better. I want to go back to more educated. I want to go back to better habits. I want to go back to closer to my wife. I want to go back to reaching out to my family and reaching out to my community. There's somebody today that you can reach. If you're using this time to get stuff done around the house, to establish new habits, to increase your relationships, don't forget, there's going to come a time where you got to keep doing that. And now you have to go to work again. And now you have to go to school again. And now baseball practice and football practice and the music lessons are all going to start. Don't forget, you're not looking for back to normal. You're looking for back to better. At least that's what I'm going to do, and that's my cup of joe for today. Thank you for joining us. I really, really appreciate you. I love you all. I thought Joseph was a great guest. If you know somebody that would be a good guest for Joe Knows South Lake, please reach out to me. Oh, and I did tell Joseph, we did find, where did I write that? I just wrote that down. Hang on. The correct number, we posted this in our graphic. We had 352. The correct number is 386-668-4458 to reach Joseph. You can also find his number online on their website. I know it's correct there. That was my mistake. And I will try to make sure those things don't happen in the future. So I was talking about the guest. If you know somebody who is a parent and student that have made the transition from bricks and mortar school to distance school, I'd love to get them on and talk about their perspective. I would love to talk to a teacher who's making that same transition and get their perspective. Please reach out to me. Finally, just like Joseph and his wife Lynn have been doing for 15 years at Congregation at Sinai, using their greatness to bring out the greatness in others, I encourage you, there is greatness inside you, even sitting in your living room. Use your greatness to bring out the greatness in somebody else. Touch another life, and you will change the world. You may never see the change, but it will change nonetheless. This has been Joe Carlisle and Joseph Goldovitz. Joseph Goldovitz with Congregation Sinai on Joe Knows South Lake. I will see you tomorrow, and I love you. Bye-bye.
My name is Joe. 20 years ago, my wife and I moved to Lake County with our 4 young children and settled down. In that time, we've worked, worshiped, played, and raised our family. Today, I've met the people and discovered the businesses and organizations that make up a vibrant, dynamic community. Join us as we share with you what makes South Lake great. I'm Joe, and Joe Knows South Lake. Joe Knows South Lake would like to thank the following sponsors: